I thought my daughter's secret was just about college stress. Then she walked through my door, holding a newborn, and everything I believed about my family shattered. My name is Patricia Morgan, 48, a high school guidance counselor in Denver. I spent my life helping other people's children through their problems, never imagining my own daughter would destroy me from the inside out. The homecoming I never expected. I heard the key turn in the lock at midnight, 9 months after she left for college. The sound cut through the silence of our living room, where my husband Mark and I had been watching a late-night movie. My heart jumped. Emma wasn't supposed to be home until Thanksgiving, still 3 weeks away. I rushed to the door, my slippers sliding on the hardwood floor. When I pulled it open, my breath caught in my throat. My daughter Emma stood there with a car seat in her hands and tears streaming down her face. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair a mess. She looked like she'd been crying for hours. "Emma?" I whispered, reaching for her. "What's wrong? What happened?" She stepped inside, and that's when I saw it. The car seat wasn't empty. Inside was a tiny baby, wrapped in a pink blanket, sleeping peacefully. My mind went blank. I couldn't process what I was seeing. I reached for the baby, my hands trembling, but she pulled away like I was a stranger. The movement was so sharp, so protective, that it felt like a slap across my face. "Mom, there's something I need to tell you," she whispered, but her eyes looked past me toward the living room where Mark had appeared in the doorway. I turned to look at my husband. I saw my husband's face go white, and I knew this was bigger than teen pregnancy. His mouth hung open, his hands gripping the door frame like he might collapse. The color had drained from his cheeks completely. "Emma," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Is that a baby?" Emma nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. She wouldn't meet either of our eyes now. The baby stirred in the car seat, making a small whimpering sound that broke through the thick tension in the room. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers, but instead I just stood there, frozen, watching my daughter hold a secret I never saw coming. 9 months. She'd been pregnant for 9 months, and I'd had no idea. What kind of mother doesn't know her own daughter is carrying a child? The father, no one mentioned. Emma refused to tell me who the father was for 3 days straight. She'd moved into her old bedroom with the baby, a little girl she'd named Sophie. I'd been sleeping maybe 2 hours a night, my mind racing with questions that Emma wouldn't answer. Every time I asked, she'd shut down. Her face would go blank, and she'd turn away from me, focusing all her attention on Sophie. It was like watching a stranger inhabit my daughter's body. On the 3rd night, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until Emma was in the shower, then I went into her room. I found her old phone hidden in her luggage, stuffed at the bottom of her duffel bag under dirty clothes. My hands shook as I powered it on. I knew I was invading her privacy, but I was desperate. The phone lit up and I went straight to her messages. Most were deleted, but Emma had forgotten about the trash folder. I scrolled through deleted conversations, my heart pounding harder with each swipe. Then I saw it. The name that kept appearing made my stomach drop. Dad's friend Tom. Message after message dating back almost a year. "Can't wait to see you. Missing you so much. This has to stay between us." I felt sick. Tom was 45 years old. He'd been to our house dozens of times for barbecues and football games. I'd served him dinner. I'd laughed at his jokes. I heard the shower turn off. I quickly put the phone back where I found it and left the room, my whole body shaking. When Emma came out, her hair wrapped in a towel, I confronted her. I showed her screenshots I'd taken with my own phone. She finally broke down sobbing in my arms. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she cried into my shoulder. "I'm so sorry." But then she pulled back, her eyes wide and terrified. She said something worse. "It's not Tom, Mom. It's closer than that." The words hit me like ice water. Closer than that? What did that even mean? My mind raced through possibilities, each one more horrible than the last. "Then who?" I demanded, gripping her shoulders. "Emma, who is Sophie's father." She just shook her head, tears streaming down her face, and locked herself in the bathroom. My sister's terrible confession. My sister Rachel showed up unannounced the next morning with guilt written all over her face. I just put Sophie down for a nap when the doorbell rang. Rachel stood on my porch, her hands twisted together, her eyes refusing to meet mine. "We need to talk," she said quietly. I let her in, my chest tight with anxiety. Rachel and I had always been close. She was only 2 years older than me, and we'd shared everything our whole lives. But something about the way she stood in my living room, looking at everything except me, made my skin crawl. She sat me down and told me she knew about the pregnancy the entire time. The words came out in a rush, like she'd been holding them in for months. Emma called me in January. She was scared. She didn't know what to do. January? I repeated, my voice rising. You knew in January and you never told me? Rachel had been sending Emma money, helping her hide everything from me. Rent for a small apartment near campus, doctor's appointments, baby supplies, everything. My own sister had helped my daughter deceive me for 9 months. I thought I was protecting her, she cried. But I felt only rage, pure, white-hot rage that made my hands shake, and my vision blur at the edges. Protecting her? I stood up, my voice shaking. From what? From her own mother? From the truth? I asked her why, and she wouldn't look me in the eye when she answered. She begged me not to tell you. She said you'd be so disappointed in her. She said it would destroy the family. And you thought lying was better? I was shouting now, something I rarely did. You thought keeping the secret was protecting anyone? Rachel flinched, tears running down her face. Patricia, please, you don't understand. The father, he's... Who? I demanded. Emma won't tell me, so you tell me, Rachel. Who got my 17-year-old daughter pregnant? My sister's face crumbled. She covered her mouth with her hand, and I saw her whole body start to shake. Whatever she was about to say, I knew it was going to change everything. The DNA test I had to order. I couldn't sleep until I knew the truth about this baby's father. That night, after Rachel left without giving me answers, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Mark snored beside me, somehow able to sleep through this nightmare, but I couldn't. My mind wouldn't stop racing. At 3 a.m, I got up and went to my laptop. I ordered a DNA test online and waited for it to arrive like a woman possessed. I chose the fastest shipping option, paying extra to get it in 2 days instead of 5. Every hour that passed felt like torture. When the package finally arrived, I tore it open with shaking hands. The instructions were simple, just a cheek swab from Sophie and one from the potential father. But I didn't have the father. I just needed to know if my suspicions were right. Emma caught me swabbing the baby's cheek and screamed at me to stop. She'd walked into the nursery while I was bent over Sophie's crib, gently running the swab along the inside of her tiny mouth. What are you doing? Emma shrieked, rushing forward a sudden. I'm finding out the truth, I said calmly, sealing the swab in its container. You're going to ruin everything, she shouted, grabbing my wrist so hard it bruised. Her nails dug into my skin, and I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Not shame, not guilt. Fear. I pulled away from her grip. Everything's already ruined, Emma. Can't you see that? She tried to grab the DNA kit from my hands, but I held it away from her. We struggled for a moment, and Sophie started crying from all the noise. Emma froze, torn between stopping me and comforting her daughter. I sent the test anyway. And then I waited for my world to end. I added my own DNA sample and one from Mark, just to rule him out completely. Then I overnighted the package to the lab. The website said results would take 7 to 10 days. I didn't know how I'd survive that long. When sisters become enemies. Rachel kept calling me, begging me to let it go and think of Emma's future. Her number showed up on my phone screen 20 times a day. Text messages flooded in constantly. Please don't do this. You're making a mistake. Think about what this will do to our family. I blocked her number after she said I was being selfish and dramatic. That last text had been the final straw. You're acting crazy, Patricia. This obsession with knowing isn't healthy. You need to accept that Emma made a choice and support her. Support her? Support the lies? I couldn't believe my own sister was saying these things. But blocking her number didn't stop Rachel. She showed up at my house and tried to take the baby, claiming I was unstable. I'd been in the kitchen making lunch when I heard her voice in the nursery upstairs. She'd used her old key, the one I'd forgotten to ask for back. I ran up the stairs 2 at a time. Rachel was lifting Sophie out of her crib, whispering soothing sounds to the baby. Put her down, I said from the doorway, my voice deadly calm. Patricia, you're not thinking clearly, Rachel said, holding Sophie against her chest. Emma's terrified of you right now. You're acting insane with this DNA test. I'm taking the baby to my house until you calm down. That's kidnapping, I said, stepping into the room. Put my granddaughter down right now. We fought in the driveway like animals while neighbors watched through their windows. Rachel had made it halfway to her car when I caught up with her. I grabbed her arm and she spun around, nearly dropping Sophie. Emma had come running out of the house, screaming at both of us to stop. Give me the baby, I shouted. Not until you destroy that DNA test, Rachel shouted back. I yanked Sophie from her arms, more roughly than I intended. The baby started wailing. Emma grabbed Sophie from me, crying hysterically. Our neighbor, Mrs. Chen, stood on her porch with her phone out, probably recording everything. That's when Rachel finally admitted she'd helped Emma because the father asked her to keep quiet. The words came out in her anger, unfiltered. He said it was the only way to protect everyone. He said if you found out, it would destroy 2 families. I stared at her, my chest heaving. Who is he, Rachel? She pressed her lips together, realizing what she'd just revealed. Then she got in her car and drove away, leaving me standing in my driveway with the truth just out of reach, the results that broke me. The DNA results came back on a Tuesday morning while I was alone. Mark had gone to work. Emma had taken Sophie to a doctor's appointment. I'd been refreshing my email every 5 minutes for the past 3 days, waiting. When the message finally appeared in my inbox, I just stared at it for a full minute before clicking. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I opened the email with shaking hands and read the same line 5 times. Probability of relatedness, 99.97%. Relationship type, uncle/niece. Uncle. The father was Sophie's uncle, which meant he was my brother, or Mark's brother. Mark didn't have a brother. He was an only child. That left only one possibility. The father was listed as a close male relative. My brother Jason. I read his name over and over, hoping I was misreading it somehow. But the lab was clear. Jason was Sophie's father. Jason, who was 42 years old. Jason, who had held Emma on his lap when she was a little girl. Jason, who came to every family dinner and holiday. I threw up in the kitchen sink and couldn't stop screaming. The sound that came out of me wasn't human. It was raw and animal and full of more pain than I'd ever felt in my life. I gripped the edge of the counter, my knees buckling. My brother had violated my daughter, and my sister had helped them hide it. The betrayal was so deep, so complete, that I couldn't breathe. Rachel knew. She'd known all along that it was Jason. That's why she'd been so desperate to stop me from finding out. I sank to the kitchen floor, the email still glowing on my phone screen. Images flashed through my mind. Jason at Emma's high school graduation, his arm around her shoulders for a photo. Jason teaching her to drive. Jason offering to help her move into her college dorm last fall. How long had this been going on? When did it start? How did I miss this? I called Emma's cell phone, but she didn't answer. I tried again and again, my calls going straight to voicemail. She knew. She must have known I'd gotten the results today. She was avoiding me. I sat on my kitchen floor for 2 hours, crying until I had nothing left inside me. Then, slowly, the grief began to turn into something else. Rage. Confronting the monster in my family. I drove to Jason's house, with the DNA results printed out and clutched in my fist. I didn't call first. I didn't warn him I was coming. I just got in my car and drove across town to his perfect suburban house with its perfect lawn and its perfect lie. He opened the door, smiling, asking about his favorite niece and her surprise baby. He was holding a beer, casual and relaxed, like this was just another normal Tuesday afternoon. Hey, Patty, I was just thinking about calling you. How's Emma adjusting to motherhood? That must have been quite a shock. I shoved the papers in his face and watched his expression crumble. The smile died. The color drained from his cheeks. His eyes scanned the document, and I saw the exact moment he understood what he was looking at. Patricia. I can explain. Explain? I laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. Explain how you raped my daughter? It wasn't like that, he said quickly, his voice rising. He stepped back into his house, but I followed him inside, slamming the door behind me. He tried to say Emma seduced him, that she was mature for her age. The words made me see red. She came on to me, Patty. I swear. She was always hanging around wearing those short skirts. She wanted it. She told me she loved me. She was 17 years old, I screamed in his face. She was a child. You're her uncle. She's not a child anymore, he said, his voice turning defensive, angry. She knew exactly what she was doing. This isn't my fault. If anything, she trapped me. Now there's a baby, and my life is ruined. His life was ruined. I couldn't even process the narcissism, the complete lack of remorse. I pulled out my phone and called the police right there on his porch while he begged me not to ruin his life. My fingers were steady now, my voice clear. I need to report a sexual assault. My brother assaulted my minor daughter and got her pregnant. Patricia, please. Jason grabbed at my phone, but I jerked away from him. Please don't do this. Think about the family. Think about Mom. This will kill her. You should have thought about that before you touched Emma, I said coldly. The dispatcher asked me to stay on the line. I walked out to my car and waited, watching Jason pace back and forth in his living room through the window. He looked panicked now, running his hands through his hair, picking up his phone and putting it down again. The police arrived 15 minutes later. I gave them everything, the DNA test, the timeline, Emma's college address. Jason denied it all at first, but his hands were shaking, his voice cracked. He looked guilty as hell, and the officers saw it too. My daughter's side of hell, Emma finally told me everything after Jason was arrested. I'd driven straight from the police station to her doctor's office, where I found her sitting in the parking lot with Sophie. She'd been crying. When she saw me approach, she locked her car doors. I knocked on the window. Emma, please. I need to hear it from you. She hesitated, then slowly unlocked the doors. I got in the passenger seat, and we sat there in silence for a long moment. Sophie was asleep in her car seat in the back. I'm sorry, Emma whispered finally. I'm so sorry, Mom. Tell me what happened, I said, trying to keep my voice gentle, despite the rage still burning in my chest. It started when she was 17, during a family vacation Rachel helped organize. We'd all gone to a cabin in the mountains for a long weekend last summer. I remembered that trip. We'd hiked and cooked out and played board games. It had seemed perfect. Uncle Jason came to my room one night, Emma said quietly, staring at her hands. He said he needed to talk to me about something. I thought maybe I was in trouble or something. He groomed her for months, made her feel special, threatened her if she told. He'd started slowly, compliments, private conversations, special attention. Then it escalated to touches, kisses, secret meetings. He told her she was different from other girls, mature, beautiful, special. He said no one would believe me if I told that, Emma said, tears streaming down her face. He said everyone would think I was lying for attention. He said it would destroy you and Aunt Rachel and Grandma. He said it was our secret, and secrets meant love. Rachel knew something was wrong, but chose to help them handle it quietly instead of protecting Emma. She'd caught them together once, last Christmas. Jason had convinced her that Emma was 18 by then, that it was consensual, that making it public would only hurt Emma more. Aunt Rachel said the best thing was for me to go away to college and handle the situation quietly, Emma said bitterly. She gave me money for an apartment off campus. She paid for doctor visits. She said after the baby came, I could give it up for adoption and no one would ever have to know. My daughter looked at me and asked why I didn't notice, and I had no answer. The question gutted me. How had I missed this? How had I sent her off to college, pregnant with my brother's child, and never seen the signs? I don't know, I whispered, pulling her into my arms. I don't know, baby. I'm so sorry. I failed you. We both cried then, holding each other in that parking lot while Sophie slept peacefully, unaware of the horror of her own origin, the revenge. I carefully planned. I hired the best lawyer I could find and made sure Jason would face every possible charge. Her name was Linda Martinez, and she was known for taking on sex crimes cases that others wouldn't touch. She didn't flinch when I told her the story. She just nodded, took notes, and told me we were going to destroy him. He'll try to say it was consensual, Linda warned me. They always do. She was 17, I said firmly, and he's her uncle. How is that ever consensual? Linda smiled grimly. Exactly what I'll say to the jury. I called Rachel's employer and told them about her role in covering up child abuse. Rachel worked as a social worker for the county, helping abused and neglected children. The irony made me sick. I spoke to her supervisor, a woman named Karen, and told her everything. She knew my daughter was being sexually abused by an adult family member, and instead of reporting it, she helped cover it up, I said clearly. She gave my daughter money to hide her pregnancy. She convinced her not to tell anyone. She enabled my brother's abuse. Karen was silent for a long moment, then she said, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We'll be conducting an investigation immediately." I posted the truth on social media so everyone would know what kind of people they were. I wrote a detailed post explaining what Jason had done and what Rachel had helped hide. I tagged them both. I tagged our entire family. I didn't care who saw it anymore. The post went viral in our community within hours. Messages of support flooded my inbox, but so did angry messages from family members who thought I should have kept this quiet, handled it privately, protected the family name. I testified in court with Emma beside me, both of us refusing to show mercy. Emma was brave, so much braver than I'd ever been. She stood up in front of a courtroom full of strangers and told them what Jason had done. She described the first time he touched her inappropriately, the first time he forced himself on her, the threats he made, the gifts he gave her to keep her quiet. Jason's lawyer tried to paint Emma as a seductress. He showed photos of her in normal teenage clothes, shorts, tank tops, regular stuff, and implied she'd been asking for it. Linda tore him apart. Mr. Reynolds, are you seriously suggesting that a minor is responsible for an adult's decision to sexually assault her? Are you suggesting that being related to someone negates the trauma of rape? I watched my brother get sentenced to 15 years, and I smiled for the first time in weeks. His face was pale, his shoulders slumped. He looked small in his orange jumpsuit. He looked like the monster he was. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked at me one last time. I hope you're happy now, Patricia, he said bitterly. I will be, I replied, building something from the ashes. Rachel lost her job and moved to another state, still sending me angry messages I never read. The messages kept coming for weeks. Texts, emails, even letters in the mail. I deleted them all without reading them. Whatever excuses she had, whatever justifications she'd created in her mind, I didn't want to hear them. My mother called me, begging me to forgive Rachel. She made a mistake, Mom said. She was trying to help. By covering up child abuse, I asked coldly. By helping Jason rape Emma? Mom went quiet. Then she said, You're tearing this family apart. Jason tore this family apart the moment he touched Emma, I said. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth. I stopped talking to most of my extended family after that. They were either enablers or too cowardly to take a stand. Either way, I didn't need them in my life. Emma started therapy 3 times a week and slowly began to heal. We found a trauma specialist who worked with sexual abuse survivors. At first, Emma could barely get through a session without breaking down. But gradually, week by week, I saw her start to get stronger. She moved back home with Sophie. We turned the guest room into a nursery, painting it a soft yellow. Mark built a crib from scratch, spending hours in the garage getting every detail perfect. It was his way of showing love when words failed him. I held my granddaughter and promised her I would never let anyone hurt her. Sophie had Jason's eyes, and sometimes that made my stomach turn. But she also had Emma's smile and my dimples. She was innocent in all this. I'll protect you, I whispered to her late at night when Emma was asleep. I'll be the grandmother you deserve. I'll make sure you grow up knowing you're loved and safe. The family that betrayed us was gone, and we were building a new one. It was smaller now, just me, Mark, Emma, and Sophie. But it was honest. There were no more secrets, no more lies. I looked at Emma and saw strength I didn't know she had, and I finally believed we'd survive this. She was going back to school next semester, taking online classes while I watched Sophie. She had dreams of becoming a teacher. You're going to be amazing, I told her one morning over breakfast. She smiled at me, a real smile this time. Thanks, Mom. I couldn't do this without you. You shouldn't have had to, I said quietly. But I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. We had a long road ahead of us. Healing from this kind of trauma doesn't happen overnight. But we were facing it together, honestly, without shame or secrets. And that, I was learning, was the only way to truly move forward.